All right, it's finally arrived. Nordic Forces for Team Yankee. Yes! I've been wanting this for a while, but then again, a lot of people have. And the cover is graced with some nice forest fire cover art. We've already seen 100 videos about this book and what's inside of it, so I just want to cover my impressions and the tactics I think we'll develop from using the Nordic Forces. And of course the Finnish get placed first, because Spare commands it. It must be noted the Finnish get the most choices of formations and can bring the most formations of any nation presented in the book. Finns have organic Swedish allies, so they can bring a platoon of the S-tank or the tow choppers. And strangely enough, the Viggens are the air support choice. I don't have to play Swedes to bring Viggens. And as it turns out, 2 of the units in the infantry weapons pack can be used as support choices. They can go with any Finnish formation. The T-72 Finn Mod 2 has actual weaker armor than the Soviet equivalent ERA. However, it more than makes up with it with the range and thermal imaging. The 3rd platoon option allows you to take a different tank type to mix up your options. They didn't fix the T-55's cross value, but the main gun is more impressive than the standard model. Please take a note that the Finnish BMP-1 is not modeled the same way as other BMPs. There's no Sager missile, and there is an option. The AT-4 is essentially the same weapon that the BMP-2 uses. The BMP-2 company is very similar to the BMP-1 company. However, I've noticed that both of those have a singular option to change out a singular infantry team with the Apilus missile. However, the BTR-60 company has the option to switch out its RPG-style missile teams for Apilus missile teams, making it a vastly superior option. The Finnish recoilless rifle team can also take Apilus missile support and can fight in assaults. Their Grad missile launcher has a skill rating of 3+. How cool is that? The T-55 Marksman has the firepower and rate of fire required to be a really good anti-aircraft platform. It also has decent front armor and anti-tank, allowing it to go hunting light armored vehicles and maybe the occasional rear-facing MBT. The support tows used by the Finns have a really good synergy with the BMP-2 Recon. BMPs come in a box of 5, so you can build the 3 Recon BMPs and then use the 2 BMPs left over as transports for your support tow teams. This book features an older version of Finnish camouflage than what I'm used to seeing. Unlike previous releases, the catalog section comes after each individual nation, since they have specific units that go with specific nations with very little crossover. Second in the book is Sweden, the nation with the most actual new kit of any force here in Nordic Forces. The Swedes have 3 different choices of company in a pretty standard formation of 3 formations each. They get organic Finnish allies, which means you can now construct the weirdest list possible, mixing T-72s and Carnations with perhaps band cannons and the tow helicopters and Viggens. Maybe perhaps with some missile puppies. You can have some fun with this one. Before I get into the Swedish list, I'd like to point out that the Swedish Army in Team Yankee would really benefit from that older Flames of War idea of including natural trench lines or barricades organically inside the list. The Swedish tank companies especially would really benefit from that. The S-tank company is supposed to have 4 separate platoons of 3 S-tanks each. This seems to be a typo where they put extra armored infantry in there. The S-tank would be a meager tank were it not for the fact it's got rate of fire 2, anti-tank 21, and the ambush tank rule. Make note, this does not have thermal imaging or IR. I don't see it. It is amphibious. The Centurion tank is the standard tank of the 2 options. It is slow, has great cross value, lower anti-tank, and only fires 1 shot on the go. A lot of modern tanks fire 2 shots on the go. The Swedish infantry company comes with a healthy amount of integrated support, including anti-tank and tank support. The infantry platoon comes with a healthy amount of anti-tank. Each team, in fact, with the option to upgrade to the insanely good Bill team. The transports do have anti-helicopter. But when it comes to the options you have for the infantry, you might as well just upgrade them all to the P-Scott 86. It's just better in all regards, for just 1 point for everyone. The IKV is a prime candidate for ambush from the rear arc. It does have IR. It's faster than most of the other choices in the Swedish list. I do think the missile carrier below it is better, but then you have the puppies, missile carrying jeeps essentially. They have that great save that makes them actually better at fighting heavily armed tanks than some of your tanks. They have multiple options which may not be great for taking on humongous front armor. They're the most capable of fighting T-80s of anything in the list. The band cannon is just a royal beatstick of an artillery piece. And a special note about their choppers. It's the German model, but you have to buy an expansion. It cheapens the point value, but you pay more money in real life for their chopper, essentially. Then there's the long-awaited Viggen, my favorite of the group. It doesn't have any special rules, such as for deployment, but it has pretty good weaponry. Its missile launcher is one shot, and is nowhere as good as the Tornadoes, but it still has one. Its individual Maverick missiles and its main gun are very useful against individual tanks and helicopters. And of course, the Swedish color schemes. You could use the plain green, but their camouflage is beautiful. Having taken care of the Finns and the Swedes, it must be noted that the Finns and the Swedes are not members of NATO. Do you know how in the various rulebooks it says in that corner box, you can take NATO allies? Doesn't apply to the Finns and Swedes. If you want to ally with someone out of Nordic Forces, you gotta ally with the Norwegians or the Danes. Then we have the Norwegians, a bold country considering they only get 2 choices of formations to bring. Look at them carefully. You can only bring 2 tank formations with them before you have to start allying with someone else to bring more tank formations. Their support options look pretty redundant with 2 tow jeeps or anti-air missiles. They also have Feldwagen recon. They have a really good selection of air support options though, capable of bringing the versatile Harrier. You'll be able to get those in a lot sooner. Norway gets organic American support in the form of slightly heavier tanks, redundant artillery, cheaper AA jeeps. Yet it comes with the powerful AH-64 attack chopper. That's not to be dismissed. Those also make this the style list of choice. Think about it. You got your Viggen aircraft support, you've got your killer Apaches, you've got Mercedes Jeeps with tows. All you have to do is issue Ray-Bans and cigars to your troops, and there you go. The Leopard 1 squadron looks about what you'd expect. The Leopard 1 pretty much looks like the German one. There's tiny little differences. The Mechanized Infantry Company has 3 platoons, anti-tank support, mortar support, but that's not where this unit shines. The platoon comes with its own mix of M113 and an indigenous improved version of the M113. The unit comes with 3 Carl Gustavs, with the option to trade them out for the much more lethal Eric's missile launcher. It seems like an auto take until you realize it can't fire while moved, and it has no assault value. Could you blitz out of your transport and hope to shoot a close enemy? The Feldwagen tows only come in 2 sections of 2, but when you buy them, they come in a box of 5. My thought is you buy the box and then you take the 5th one, sculpt it as a civilian vehicle, and recast it in resin for scenery purposes. Their AA missile track is pretty much the same thing as the Humvee, except it has a machine gun and some armor. The M109 artillery is very similar to the American choice. The NM Recon would be my choice. It's got a better weapon, it's anti-helicopter, it has a good cross value, and especially the cross-country dash, but there may be some instances where you would want something different. The Feldwagen Recon has that nice infantry save, and its weaponry is pretty much designed to cut up enemy infantry. Lastly, remember Norway has that really aesthetic color scheme too. Then you have the Danish, my favorite dessert, and the classic NATO list amongst this book. Please take note that the Danish can bring 4 mechanized infantry companies. Their air support allows them to take either the amazing Harrier or the amazing Tornado. No losing there. Their German allies allow them to bring the Great 105 chopper with its high anti-tank, and they can get Leopard 2s. Their allied air is great. The tank company has integrated mortar and paladin support with the classic Centurion and the high rate of fire Leopard. The Centurion is not the same thing that the Swedes get. Swedes have more armor and machine guns. Their mech infantry platoon is very similar to what other NATO countries have. The Danes can bring an older version of the Centurion as a support option in any force they bring. No need to get the German book to play the Tornado, and when the Feldwagens are back, you can still only use 4 of them, so the civilian sculpt for terrain is still possible. The scenarios are now neatly placed right in the back of the book, easy to get to. So that is Nordic Forces, and I like it. Do I have a favorite? Well, of course, but what's the best? That's up to your own playstyle. Some people play differently. I honestly think the best options are in the hands of the Finnish, definitely the Swedes, and the Norwegians. These lists heavily rely upon using your allies to your best effect. The Danes have the best allied air. The Norwegians have very potent surprises hidden amongst their list. The Swedes have good defensive tanks and good assaulting infantry. And the Finnish, their tanks aren't that amazing, but the Finnish do have some great options to bring to the field. So that's my look at Nordic Forces. Thank you for watching my video, and hopefully have a great rest of your week.